Karen Luuk here. How do you play Someone You Loved then? Here's a tutorial. I would say that if you have a grade 8 level of piano playing ability, this should take you a few weeks to learn. It's in the key of D flat. It has 5 flats. But don't be daunted by that. Once you learn how to play lots of flats, it actually fits under your hand much easier. Believe it or not, for pianists, the key of C with no flats or sharps is the hardest one for us. So this actually fits very easily. There's no trick to the beginning. One thing you have to learn about with piano though is that it's one of the few instruments that you don't have to take an actual breath at. So the pianist has to take the breath. Arch of your phrase should always be like that. You build up to a peak in the middle and then you go down again. You don't make it too obvious because then it would be like a rocky road, wouldn't it? But if you listen to this phrase, you see how it tapers off at the end. And you can slow down a little bit too, as Luuk Capaldi does. Again, another phrase. In the music, if you have a phrase that repeats itself and then it changes, you can actually build in a bit of a pause there because naturally our ear will want to hear that. With these grace notes, are you noticing that the little accent note goes before the main note? So it's always going to be beforehand. The other thing that you would have to be able to master if you wanted to play this piece is playing octaves. You have to build up the technique so you can play the pieces. But once you get to a certain standard of playing, your piece becomes your technique. So for you to learn octaves, choose a piece like this if you want to work on your octaves rather than just boring. Because that's really boring to do hour after hour. But playing something like this, much more interesting. Now this is where you're going to have a key change and you're going to be changing the whole dynamic of your piece. And this particular chunk is definitely the hardest chunk in the works. This is what I have to practice the most. But let me give you a few hints. On that first arpeggio in the bottom hand, the fingering is 5, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, and then back down again as you played it. And then the second arpeggio is 5, 3, 2, 1, 4, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But when you flip over that fourth finger, move your whole hand at the same time, and that's going to help you. And then the third arpeggio, cross over the fourth finger. So 5, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it gets picked up by the right hand. Down at the bottom it has 8 notes and at the top it has 4. So 4 is divided into 8. But it goes so fast you really don't get that sensation of it. There's several examples in classical music where things just happen so fast you don't need to be absolutely precise that you put the melody right on top the way that you should. Probably the most famous piece that you've heard of is Fantasy Impromptu, where you have a load of notes on the bottom and a load of notes on top, and they don't match up actually, but you would never know it because they're just played really fast, and this piece is kind of the same, so you probably know this piece. it's something like that on this piece as well, because it just goes so fast. Once you learn it, you don't recognize that it's different number of notes in the left and the right. So you've got those 3 arpeggios in the left hand, and then it sort of works in blocks of 4. So you have the 3 arpeggios in the left hand, and then it goes into a 4/4 time. Now starts the triplet section. Now, when you are moving from one section that's a bit plainer, like in the bridge, to something that's more complicated, like the triplet section, there's just more notes, it's just more meaty. You definitely have to slow down your audience. You can't just lunge into it, because it's going to be very hard for the listener. And also, too, in piano, when you have something moving, you always have to look for the motion in it. So, for example, if you listen to the bass, starts the triplet section. Now the triplet section is just what it says on the tin. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And then the left hand is also 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 mixed up with 8th notes. Richness of the triplets make it even more sort of meatier than just the 8th notes, because you're fitting 3 notes into the space where you had 2 before. Now the hard part are these notes that are coming up right now. In bar 29, there's a really complicated chord. It took me an age to sort of figure it out, and I'm going to tell you what the chord is, starting from the bottom. E flat, G flat, B natural, E flat. So E flat, G flat, B flat, E flat, and you're playing 1, 2, 4, 5. Those are your fingerings are going to be for that. At the bottom, it's another arpeggio, but it's 5, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. And that is basically what the finger is going to be for the other arpeggios as well. You're going to be on the 5, 3, 2, 1s. Now this next little bit is really easy because it's all on black notes. It looks really complicated, but it actually isn't. Next chord, again, a nice juicy chord, but tough to figure out. The keys are G flat, A natural, D natural, G flat. Now, in the arpeggio in the left hand here, it's 5, 2, 1, 4, 2, 1. The third juicy chord that is in bar 30, and that chord is E natural, A natural, D flat, E natural. And the next juicy chord is this one, D flat, E natural, A natural, D flat. Every piece of music has a focal point, and you have to find it. And in this piece, it is that chord. The whole piece of music is leading to that chord. And I think what the arranger did here was really clever, actually, because it wasn't what you were expecting, I'll bet. One of the things you have to learn to be a pianist is to listen to yourself playing all the time. You have to match that tone, because if it's too soft or it's too loud, that's going to be harsh on the ears. So really work at matching your tone, matching your volume and your sound, so you lead your listener along with you. So I'll play that loud part again, and then listen to how the arch goes and it gets nice and soft at the end. You also have to be careful you don't slow down too much, because then you're going to lose the forward motion. This is what makes playing piano hard sometimes, because you've got to balance the sound and the tone, match it. Don't slow down, but not too much. And that's what separates some people who play the piano okay to people that are really moved by the music that they hear. These are the things that you want to work on to just take your music to the next level. We're on page 5, and remember you got that juicy little chord thing. And then you match that tone, and then you're going to hold that for a while, but you're going to wait, because you've got to match this tone to the next section, because the next part starts quite quietly. And you really want to try not to have that pedal change to be too abrupt, because again, we find that very jarring when we listen to music. So I'll try to play it all again all at once. Then you hold it and you go up to this. Don't change your pedal until now on that D flat. Also, the music says a tempo. What that means is get back to the normal speed. So you've got all this flourish, then you've got this calming note. You can take your time at it, and then you move right into the next tempo. Go right into it. Don't gradually go into it. Again, we've already had this dramatic slow down, stop, get right back into tempo there, all right? That little scale, it's just a D flat major scale, and it's just something that you have to practice. Again, you can see where learning music actually helps your technique. The reason why it's really nice to get it nice and crisp is because, again, that's what sets people apart, and people love hearing these little flourishes. A lot of this piece you can make little mistakes at and nobody notices. That people will notice. So you really do have to make sure that one works. It's quite bare, there's really nothing supporting it. So really work at getting that scale right, because that will really make your piece sound amazing. So we'll try it again here. Except that I make a mistake at it. Just before the mezzo piano part, it's very high. And then it drops right down. And that's another tone match part in the piece. But that's actually an easy one, and the reason why it's easy is because really high notes on the piano decay very, very quickly. The bottom notes don't, so when you have this is why it takes a while for that to decay. So just listen to how that works. Now in this last section, you're coming home, so you want to make sure it's nice and clear that you're coming home. And pedaling here is really, really critical. If you don't pedal enough between the notes, then it's going to muddle all the sound together. And if you pedal too frequently, they're going to sound bare, and you want to have some support there. Tone matching. And you can take your time on that D flat before you have to do that final thing. When you have that, so many pianists make this mistake. Keep your hands on the keys. Don't just take them off and just sit there. Because first of all, for your audience, it doesn't look very good, does it? But it does make a difference when you actually are holding the keys down and the damper pedal down. That actually sustains the tone in a different way. If you take your hands off too early and just rely on the damper pedal to keep it going, it's going to change at different rates. Whereas if you keep your hands down and wait for the sound decay and then release your hands, then you've controlled your sound the way that you want it to be at the very end. Thanks very much for listening to this tutorial. I hope this has helped you. Good luck, and if you do try it, would you please leave a comment below to tell me how it went for you. Bye for now.